Welcome back. Now, localization, strategic partnerships, and even reining in cheap imports from the likes of China. This is what some local manufacturers say could boost economic growth past 1.5% for South Africa this year. Statistics South Africa, that's to say, due to release the economic performance data for the first 3 months of the year. That's set to come out tomorrow morning. Ntokozo Khumalo will be watching that for us and also joins us in studio now to look ahead to that data. And Ntokozo, one would say that the likes of manufacturers, look, we've been focusing on agriculture, of course, of late, right, which is an important sector when you look at those GDP numbers. But manufacturers also being very important too. How's that conversation seemed like? Has there been growth there? Have we continued to feel like they need to be invested into a little bit more? What's going on?
Subdued growth is
that's probably the word.
Subdued growth is the sentiment that I got on the ground. We did go around speaking to different manufacturers, the like of Italtal, that is in home products, the like of Lesco, that is one of the last South African companies producing those electrical products, as well as Matimba Energy, which does then the LED lighting. So different sectors of manufacturing businesses that we did go visit, and they saying headwinds that they face, the one you just mentioned being the key one, those cheap imports from China, once again impacting manufacturing. We saw what it did to the steel industry. All other industries now facing it. Even the ones that produce largely from South Africa, there are still some components to their production that comes from China. And that's some of the challenges that really is eating away at a big chunk of that growth.
Yeah, and one imagines that South Africa sits then in a situation where manufacturing was a key part of the economy. That's begun to dwindle. Agriculture was key. That dwindled. And it's these certain sectors that you are wondering how that continues to help. And the only sector that I'm going to say stays alive is government or finance. Right? Because that just means that the private sector is either needing to foot the bill in terms of hiring, or government then needs to. And that's a big strain on public finances. That's a big strain on the private sector, which themselves are saying, well, we need more growth in the country in order to be able to invest more. So
absolutely,
this is a sector that needs a lot more work. And as you said, a lot of the people you spoke to in, I think, the insert that you're going to show us also continuing to struggle.
A lot of work, Arabile, and it seems that stakeholders perhaps speaking over each other a little bit, because when we speak of those strategic partnerships, that's exactly what the manufacturers were saying is needed on the ground, that they need more intentional plans when it comes to how those strategic partnerships, specifically between public sector and private sector, to be able to work together. And government's role really in protecting a little bit some of these industries, which sounds crazy because, you know, when we think of protection around trade and business and manufacturing, the first person that comes to mind right now is US President Donald Trump when it comes to those US tariffs. And Matimba Energy is the last company that I paid a visit to. They are now also active in other SADC countries in the region, exporting to them. And I did ask them about those strategic partnerships, what they look like, and how those US tariffs would impact them. Because after all this slew of data that we're getting, Arabile, they're then looking to the 9th of July to see the decision that US President Donald Trump will make in regards to those tariffs. But let's hear what then the technical director there at Matimba had to say when it comes to those partnerships as well as US tariffs.
We are looking at the upward growth, and thanks also to our government, because we are one of the panelists for the Department of Energy, where we have been appointed to supply the street lights into the municipalities. So obviously the government takes a bigger cake of that. So we are a little bit optimistic that we're going to be having a little bit on the upwards on our street lights, because what we are doing is the solar street lights that we manufacture and assembly, and then also your normal street lights, LED street lights, which now we have been rolling out even since last year. That's when that contract started. So we are a little bit optimistic. There's no way that we can say those tariffs are not affecting us as a business, because remember, most of the raw material that we are using, the material we are using, some of them we are importing them. So somewhere, somehow, it will affect us, because also from the countries where we get some of our equipment, you can find that they are getting some of the raw material from the USA, or the countries where the USA has imposed those tariffs. So obviously, those countries also will have to pass that bill into the consumers. So we are going to be very much affected about that.
All right, Ntokozo, with that, then let's talk about tomorrow. Expectations. What time does the data come out?
Well, bleak expectations, Aravile.
Yeah.
Most economists are seeing 0%.
So no growth in the first 3 months of the year.
Or possibly edging into negative territory, which is not all the way surprising, as we just spoke about, and economists have alluded to that usually we do see an uptick in economic performance in the last quarter of the year. That's because of all the tourism and the spending for the festive season, tending to dip a little bit in the first quarter. But I think a little bleak, this first quarter data that's to come out. Economists not expecting us to hit beyond that 1.5% growth by the end of the year.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly be checking out how that data fares then tomorrow morning. I believe that's around 11:30, yeah?
Yes.
11:30 there, so we'll certainly have that. Thank you so much for that, Ntokozo.
Sure.
We'll certainly keep abreast of that data. The GDP numbers then for the South African economy are going to be very significant tomorrow to detail how things are faring.